the child of two worlds. The midday Ethel sun beat down mercilessly, turning the marketplace into a shimmering kaleidoscope of sweat and color. Anya weaved through the throng, her cerulean hair catching the light like scattered sapphires. Unlike the other teenagers, her eyes weren't a constant blue. They shifted, reflecting the vibrant hues of the stalls. Emerald from a pile of glistening fruits, ruby from a vendor's shimmering silks. It was a trait inherited from her Xylothian mother, a constant reminder of the duality that ran through her veins. She stood taller than most human girls her age, a consequence of her mixed heritage. Her skin held a subtle olive undertone, and her features were a blend of human and Xylothian. The bridge of her nose was slightly broader than typical humans, and her ears came to delicate points, hinting at the elegant appendages that adorned full-blooded Xylothians. She stopped at a stall overflowing with strange, pulsating crystals. The vendor, a gnarled Xylothian with bark-like skin and multiple amber glowing eyes that scanned her with suspicion, eyed her with a low rumble. "Just looking, Xylo?" Anya greeted him in the Xylothian tongue, her voice lilting and musical. The vendor grunted, his mandibles clicking together in a way that sent shivers down some human spines. "Looking rarely buys bread, human spawn." Anya flashed him a disarming smile, a smile honed from years of navigating the sometimes strained relations between humans and Xylothians. "Perhaps," she said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, "but curiosity can buy wonders." He snorted, a sound like dry leaves rustling. "You humans and your insatiable need for trinkets." Anya leaned closer, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "This doesn't look like a trinket, Xylo. What does it do?" The vendor's amber eyes narrowed. He glanced over his shoulder, then leaned towards Anya, his voice barely a rasp. "They say it holds the whispers of the jungle, child. Memories of forgotten times." Anya's heart quickened. The Xylothian jungles held a deep fascination for her. Their bioluminescent flora and the strange telepathic creatures whispered about in hushed tones. "How much?" The vendor named a price that made Anya's stomach clench. It was more than a week's allowance, but the allure of the crystal, its unknown potential, was too strong to resist. She dug deep into her pocket, pulling out a collection of mismatched trinkets. A dented human locket, a Xylothian charm carved from a luminous stone. The vendor's eyes flickered with interest. "A human bauble and a Xylothian fancy," he rumbled. "An interesting trade, child. You have an eye for the unusual, like your mother." Anya's smile faltered. Her mother, a renowned Xylothian botanist, had often ventured deep into the jungles, studying the strange flora and fauna. Anya yearned to follow in her footsteps, but her human father, the colony's chief engineer, had always put his foot down. "Too dangerous," he'd say, his voice laced with a fear he couldn't quite hide. "My mother, she likes the unusual too," Anya said, her voice barely a whisper. The vendor grunted, a flicker of something akin to sympathy in his amber eyes. He bagged the trinkets and handed her the crystal, its pulse sending a strange warmth tingling through her fingers. "Keep it safe, child," he rasped. "The whispers it holds can be dangerous." Anya tucked the crystal into her pocket, a shiver running down her spine. The marketplace suddenly seemed stifling, the noise oppressive. Glancing at the sky, she noticed the sun had dipped lower, casting long shadows. It was getting late. She started to weave her way back through the crowd, her thoughts a jumble. The crystal, the vendor's cryptic words, the ever-present tension between humans and Xylothians. It all felt like pieces of a puzzle she couldn't quite grasp. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath her feet. A guttural shriek tore through the air, followed by another and another. Panic erupted in the marketplace as people screamed and scrambled for cover. Anya looked up, her blood turned into ice. A monstrous ship, unlike anything she'd ever seen, hung ominously in the sky, its metallic hull glinting in the afternoon sun. From its underbelly, smaller, menacing craft descended, spewing forth strange, armored figures. The whispers of the jungle had been replaced by a terrifying roar. The peace of Ethel, the fragile coexistence between humans and Xylothians, was shattered. The invasion. Chapter 2. The marketplace was a scene of utter chaos. Screams echoed off the buildings, drowned out by the deafening roar of the alien ships overhead. Humans and Xylothians alike panicked, shoving and scrambling for cover. Anya clung to the pulsating crystal in her pocket, its warmth a small comfort amidst the rising tide of fear. Suddenly, a guttural shriek pierced the din. Anya whipped around, her eyes widening in horror. A hulking creature, clad in chitinous armor the color of dried blood, burst through the throng, its multifaceted eyes glowing with an eerie red light. A weapon, crackling with crackling energy, protruded from its arm. Anya froze, her mind reeling. These weren't the stories whispered in hushed tones. Tales of insectoid raiders, quickly repelled by the combined human and Xylothian defenses. These invaders were something different, something terrifyingly advanced. Her gaze darted around, searching for escape. But the crowd surged around her, a desperate mass of humanity and Xylothian forms. A human woman, clutching a wailing child, tripped and fell in front of Anya. The alien soldier loomed over them, its weapon humming menacingly. A primal scream ripped from Anya's throat. Ignoring the surge of terror, she shoved the woman and child aside, propelling them towards a narrow alleyway. Panic propelled her own legs, carrying her deeper into the throng. Rounding a corner, she smashed into a figure shrouded in flowing blue robes. The air knocked out of her lungs. She stumbled back, gasping for breath. The figure righted itself, revealing an elderly Xylothian male with skin like weathered bark and eyes that burned with an inner fire. He surveyed the scene with a grim expression. "Anya," he rasped, his voice a dry rustle. "Get to the west gate. The refugees are gathering there." Anya stared at him, her mind a whirlwind of questions. Who was he? How did he know her name? But the urgency in his voice snapped her out of her daze. "The south?" she choked out, pointing back towards the marketplace, where the chilling shriek of the alien weapon echoed. "What about the others?" The old Xylothian's face contorted in a grimace. "There's no time. You must warn them. The west gate, Anya, now!" He grabbed her arm with surprising strength, shoving a small leather pouch into her hand. Before she could protest, he vanished back into the churning throng, leaving Anya alone and bewildered. Clutching the pouch against her chest, she forced her legs to move. The alien screams and the desperate shouts of the crowd fueled her every step. She weaved through the labyrinthine alleyways, guided by a primal instinct she didn't understand. Finally, she burst out onto a broad avenue, the sight before her stealing her breath. Hundreds of humans and Xylothians huddled together, their faces etched with fear and desperation. But amongst them, a small contingent of Xylothian warriors stood guard, their antennae twitching, their bioluminescent markings pulsing in a mesmerizing rhythm. Hope flickered in Anya's chest. If anyone could hold off these invaders, it was the Xylothian warriors. But their numbers seemed woefully inadequate in the face of the overwhelming alien force. Suddenly, a booming voice echoed through the avenue. A human woman, her face streaked with tears but her voice resolute, was addressing the crowd. It was Anya's mother, her usually gentle eyes burning with an unfamiliar fire. "There's no time for fear," her mother shouted. "We must stand together. Humans, Xylothians, it's our home they threaten." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Anya watched as her mother turned towards the Xylothian warriors, her voice softening. She spoke in their guttural language, her words seemingly calming the agitated warriors. Anya's hand went to the pouch the old Xylothian had given her. With trembling fingers, she opened it, revealing a smooth obsidian stone. What was it? What did it have to do with what was happening? Before she could ponder further, a wave of commotion surged through the crowd. A young Xylothian boy, no older than 10, darted away from his parents and raced towards the approaching alien soldiers. A collective gasp rose from the gathered refugees. Anya's heart lurched. She couldn't let him. A deafening roar filled the air as the alien weapon discharged. Anya squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for impact. But it never came. When she opened her eyes, Chapter 3. Anya blinked, the world coming back into focus. The deafening roar had subsided, replaced by an eerie silence. Tentatively, she peeked over the shoulder of a hulking Xylothian warrior in front of her. The scene that greeted her was both horrific and strangely beautiful. The young Xylothian boy stood frozen, mere feet away from the towering alien soldier. But the alien's weapon wasn't pointed at him. It lay smoking and useless on the ground. The reason became apparent a moment later. A shimmering dome, a kaleidoscope of colors pulsed around the boy, deflecting a volley of energy blasts from other alien soldiers. The shield shimmered with each hit, but it held. A wave of gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Anya clutched the obsidian stone in her hand, a sudden warmth emanating from it in response to the vibrant shield. Could this be? The Xylothian warriors reacted first. With a synchronized war cry, they charged towards the remaining alien soldiers. Their bioluminescent markings blazed, bathing the avenue in an unsettling blue light. The warriors moved with an inhuman grace, their long, multi-jointed limbs wielding strange, energy-charged blades with deadly efficiency. A vicious melee erupted. Anya watched, heart pounding in her chest, as the Xylothian warriors, despite being outnumbered, held their own against the heavily armored aliens. The air crackled with raw energy, the clash of blades ringing out like a death knell. Then a guttural roar split the air. A hulking alien figure, far larger than its comrades, entered the fray. Its multifaceted eyes glowed a malevolent crimson, and its chitinous armor bore intricate markings that pulsed with a sinister energy. The Xylothian warriors faltered for a moment, their initial fierce assault momentarily subdued by this new threat. The alien commander. Suddenly, the young Xylothian boy, the one who had been protected by the dome, stepped forward. His eyes, usually a vibrant green, now glowed with an inner light that mirrored the swirling colors of the shield. He raised his hand, palm outstretched towards the alien commander. From the obsidian stone clutched tightly in Anya's hand, a warmth surged up her arm, resonating with the glow emanating from the boy. The air crackled with unseen energy. The shield around the boy pulsed with renewed intensity, its colors shifting into a menacing crimson. Then, with a deafening boom, a wave of pure energy erupted from the shield, engulfing the alien commander. The monstrous creature roared in defiance, but the wave of energy was relentless. It slammed into the alien, sending it crashing back through the ranks of its soldiers. It lay unmoving, its chitinous armor smoking and cracked. Silence descended upon the avenue, broken only by the ragged gasps of the refugees and the clanging of the remaining alien weapons clattering to the ground. The remaining alien soldiers, their commander, vanquished, hesitated, their red eyes flickering with confusion and fear. Then, with a series of guttural shrieks, they turned and fled, their ships vanishing into the sky with a deafening roar. The refugees erupted in cheers, a wave of relief and exhilaration washing over the crowd. Anya, still clutching the obsidian stone, sank to her knees, her legs trembling. What had just happened? How had the boy and the stone? Her questions were answered by a gentle hand on her shoulder. She looked up to see her mother, her face etched with a mixture of relief and awe. "Anya," her mother said, her voice thick with emotion. "The whispers, they were true." Anya stared at her mother, her mind reeling. The whispers of the jungle, the strange warmth of the crystal, the boy's inexplicable power. It all fit together now. The Xylothians, it seemed, held a secret, a forgotten power awakened by the obsidian stones and channeled through those with a strong connection to the jungle. Her mother knelt beside her, taking the obsidian stone from her hand and holding it up to the fading sunlight. The stone pulsed faintly, the warmth subsiding. "This," her mother said, her voice filled with reverence, "is a Xylo gem, an ancient relic that amplifies our connection to the jungle's energy. The boy, he's a descendant of the Skyborn, those with the strongest connection. He used the Xylo gem to protect himself and to fight back." Anya stared at the unassuming black stone, a newfound sense of purpose stirring within her. The invasion was far from over, but for the first time, a flicker of hope had ignited. Perhaps with the combined strength of humans and Xylothians and the power of the Xylo gems, they could repel the invaders and protect their home. The cheers of the crowd faded into the background as Anya looked at Chapter 4. Days turned into weeks, the once bustling marketplace now a desolate reminder of the invasion. The refugees huddled within the hastily fortified walls of the West Gate, fear a constant companion. News of the Xylothian warriors' unexpected defense had spread, rallying scattered human and Xylothian settlements to their cause. Yet, the alien fleet remained a menacing presence in the sky, a constant threat hanging heavy over Ethel. Anya, along with the young Xylothian boy, Kai, became symbols of hope. Kai, once a carefree child, now bore the weight of his newfound power with quiet dignity. He spent his days meditating under the watchful eyes of the elder Xylothians, honing his connection to the jungle's energy and learning to control the shield and the energy blasts. Anya, unable to tap into Kai's power directly, felt a sense of helplessness. She spent countless hours studying ancient Xylothian texts salvaged from the ruins of the marketplace, searching for anything that could explain the Xylo gems and the forgotten powers they held. One afternoon, hunched over a dusty scroll in a makeshift library, she felt a tap on her shoulder. She looked up to see Kai, his brow furrowed in concentration. "There's something you need to see," he said, his voice barely a whisper. He led her out of the library and into a secluded courtyard. There, nestled amongst the overgrown flora, stood a gnarled Xylothian tree, its bioluminescent leaves pulsing with an unusual intensity. As they approached, the leaves swirled and shifted, revealing an entrance hidden within the trunk. "The elders told me," Kai said, his voice hushed. "This is a training ground, a place where the Skyborn honed their connection to the jungle." Anya stared at the entrance, a tremor of excitement running through her. Could this be the key she'd been searching for? A way to utilize the Xylo gem and contribute to the fight? Hesitantly, she stepped through the opening, Kai close behind. The air inside was thick and humid, filled with the sweet scent of unknown flowers. Bioluminescent fungi cast an eerie glow, illuminating strange symbols carved into the walls. As they ventured deeper, the air hummed with an unseen energy. Anya felt a tingling sensation on her skin, a strange pull towards the heart of the training ground. They arrived at a circular platform carved from a single massive crystal. In its center pulsed a swirling vortex of energy, mirroring the colors of the shield Kai had used. Kai stepped onto the platform, the crystal humming in response. He closed his eyes, and the pulsing energy intensified. Anya watched, mesmerized, as Kai's body seemed to vibrate with the same energy. Suddenly, he opened his eyes, a spark of newfound understanding burning within them. He held out his hand, and the swirling energy coalesced into a shimmering ball of light. He tossed it lightly, and it shot through the air, leaving a trail of vibrant bioluminescence in its wake. Anya's heart hammered in her chest. If Kai could manipulate the jungle's energy in such a way, maybe, just maybe, with enough training in the Xylo gem, she could too. "It's incredible," she breathed, her voice filled with awe. Kai turned to her, a smile gracing his lips. "Perhaps," he said, "perhaps we can learn to fight back together." A flicker of determination ignited in Anya's eyes. She wouldn't just stand by and watch Kai fight. She would train, unlock the potential of the Xylo gem, and become a weapon against the invaders. Human and Xylothian, united by their connection to the jungle and its hidden power. That was their only hope. From that day forward, Anya and Kai trained side by side within the hidden chamber. Days bled into weeks, filled with meditation, physical conditioning, and experimentation with the Xylo gem. Anya discovered that channeling the energy through the stone amplified her focus and agility, making her movements quicker, her reflexes sharper. She practiced manipulating the energy into defensive shields and rudimentary offensive blasts, mirroring Kai's progress. The training was grueling, pushing both of them to their limits. But with each passing day, they grew stronger, their connection to the jungle's energy deepening. A silent bond formed between them, a shared determination to protect their home and prove that humans and Xylothians, united by this newfound power, could be a force to be reckoned with. They knew the next battle was inevitable. The alien fleet hovered menacingly overhead, a constant reminder of the threat they faced. But now, Anya and Kai weren't just symbols of hope. They were weapons honed and ready. The fate of Ethel, the fragile peace between humans and Xylothians, rested on their shoulders, and Chapter 5. The pre-dawn sky bled a pale orange as Anya crouched behind a makeshift barricade, the Xylo gem clutched tightly in her hand. Beside her, Kai stood tall, his bioluminescent markings pulsing in a slow, steady rhythm. Weeks of training had transformed him, his once youthful face etched with newfound resolve. The air crackled with nervous anticipation. The refugees huddled behind the hastily erected defenses, their eyes filled with a mixture of fear and hope. The alien ships, dark and menacing, loomed closer, casting long shadows across the ravaged landscape. A guttural shriek tore through the silence, signaling the start of the attack. A swarm of smaller alien craft detached from the mothership, spewing forth wave after wave of heavily armored soldiers. The Xylothian warriors, their war cries echoing through the dawn, charged forward. Their blades clashed with the alien weapons in a cacophony of sound. Kai, at the forefront, his eyes glowing a fierce crimson, unleashed a torrent of energy blasts, sending alien soldiers flying. Anya's heart pounded in her chest. This was it, the moment she'd been training for. Taking a deep breath, she activated the Xylo gem. A surge of energy coursed through her, invigorating her body and sharpening her senses. She focused on the gem, channeling the jungle's energy through it. The familiar warmth intensified, radiating outwards and forming a shimmering shield around her. It wasn't as powerful as Kai's, but it held strong, deflecting stray blasts and shrapnel. Emboldened, she pushed further. Closing her eyes, she focused on the energy coursing through her, remembering the lessons learned within the hidden chamber. Tentatively, she willed the energy to coalesce into a single point, then launched it forward with a burst of will. A beam of emerald light erupted from her outstretched hand, striking an alien soldier with pinpoint accuracy. The soldier crumpled to the ground, its armor smoking. Anya gasped, a mixture of shock and exhilaration coursing through her. It worked. She could fight back, contribute to the defense. Fueled by newfound confidence, she continued to unleash blasts of energy, her aim improving with each shot. She moved with newfound agility, dodging incoming fire and weaving through the chaos of the battlefield. Beside her, Kai fought with the fury of a storm. His energy blast decimated enemy ranks, while his shield deflected a hail of laser fire, protecting both himself and nearby Xylothian warriors. The battle raged for what seemed like an eternity. The stench of burning metal and singed flesh filled the air, a grim testament to the ferocity of the fighting. But slowly the tide began to turn. The unexpected resistance from Anya and Kai, coupled with the fierce determination of the Xylothian warriors, overwhelmed the invaders. The alien soldiers faltered, their ranks thinning with each passing moment. Finally, with a deafening roar, the remaining alien ships turned and fled, leaving behind a battlefield littered with the wreckage of their assault. The cheers of the refugees erupted, a wave of relief and exhilaration washing over the survivors. Anya sank to her knees, her body trembling with exhaustion. But amidst the fatigue, a surge of pride swelled within her. They had done it. They had repelled the invaders, humans and Xylothians fighting side by side, their combined strength fueled by the forgotten power of the jungle. Kai stood beside her, his chest heaving with exertion. He reached out, placing a hand on her shoulder. "We did it," he said, a smile breaking through the grime and sweat on his face. Anya nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "Together," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Looking out at the devastated landscape, the remnants of the battle a stark reminder of the struggle they had just endured, Anya knew this was only the beginning. The threat from the Dralthian Empire loomed large. But now they were different. They were united, empowered by a newfound connection to the jungle and a shared determination to protect their home. As the sun rose higher in the sky, casting its golden light upon the battlefield, Anya stood tall, the Xylogem glowing faintly in her hand. A symbol of hope, a testament to the resilience of humanity and Xylothians, and a promise of a future where they would fight together for a brighter tomorrow.